All right, in this video, we're going to be talking about if your spouse is on the fence with life insurance or infinite banking. This is something that is common. There's usually one person that's like really, really excited to go. And then the other person's like, hey, you've done 200 hours of research and I'm just learning about this thing for the first time. We're doing what with insurance? Yep. I'm here with Austin Williams, one of our wealth coaches, and you put together a presentation called Spouse on the Fence ? So let's dive in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to listen, I'm going to chirp when I need to, but I'm also going to share with you at the end how I approach this. So what I do if someone's like, one spouse is not necessarily excited or has questions, like how I approach it, and we'll see how we
divergent we are.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see the different approaches.
Absolutely, yeah. The idea for this content came from actually one of the clients that I shepherded through the process, and this was the case. The spouse was on the fence. I've had this happen multiple times, but he actually came and told me, he's like, hey, wouldn't it be great if you guys had some content for this? And so it was like, thank you for giving us that idea. Like anytime that you can give us ideas for content, like it helps us out, and then in turn, it helps you guys out. So please, keep those ideas coming. This was directly from one of our clients, and I could see I would love to do more things like this in the future. But yes, spouse on the fence, what to do if the person that you are with is not as on board as you are. So I came up with like kind of 5 things that I shared in some of my meetings with people who contact us and maybe even talking to their spouses that just really helped reassure them of kind of like what they were doing and just kind of the pros of kind of going this route, and just kind of like just generally a lot of the times the spouses, they haven't, like you said, they haven't done the research.
In your experience, is it more the husbands or wives in the process? Because I'm just curious from your experience.
Generally, at least so far, it's been the wives
that are less on board. The husbands in this scenario did the research.
Yeah, it's like the husbands who have like, they've been staying up till like the crack of dawn, like scrolling on their phones or whatever, watching our YouTube content like overnight. And usually like the spouses don't know it. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, I have this great idea and I've been watching you guys for like 6 months, and they have this whole plan laid out and their spouse is like, whoa. Like what? Like time out. Like what's going on here? So usually that's the way it's been. But I could totally see that being flipped anyway.
I would love if you're watching this. Let us know in the comments what it was like for you. In my experience, it also has been the males that, and if you look at our YouTube channel, we have male dominated viewership. So it's just very interesting there.
Yeah, I could see that flipping at some point in the future. Yeah, but like right now it's definitely like the guys get excited about this, and then it's like, all right, now I got to talk to my wife. So this is for you guys. So if this sounds like you've done the research, then this might be the video for you. So you're excited about infinite banking. You have good financial fundamentals, and you have realistic goals that IBC can kind of help you accomplish. You have liquid cash reserves and sufficient cash flow to get started. And then lastly, you've decided that Better Wealth is the company that you trust to build you an optimally designed policy that gets you closer to your goals. Not just like generally optimally designed, but like designed to get you closer to whatever your financial goals are. So all those things are true. And then you tell your spouse. And then you have the conversation with your spouse. And then something goes.
I feel like we could do a part 2. Yeah. How to tell your spouse.
How to tell, not even about life insurance, just like how to talk to your spouse about important things.
That will be next to it. And please in the comments, let us know give us some tips or how you've done it. I feel like we could have a whole series of how funny stories of like how
how did you tell your spouse about this?
By the way, babe, we're gonna put $50,000 a year.
I can totally imagine guys just like munching through like a breakfast sandwich or something and being like, oh hey, by the way, babe, like we're gonna just take $50,000 out of our savings account and put it in this thing. Oh, I gotta go to work. Bye. And then they like in their head they're like, oh, I just did a great job telling my wife about this. And they're like, realistically, they get this call like, what are you doing? Like, what is going on?
That's hilarious.
So however you told your spouse, whether good or bad, you told your spouse, they are not on board fully. They're on the fence at best. This video is for them. So 5 different reassurances that I wanted to give them. First one of which, and I'm going to talk to you, Caleb, like you're the spouse right now.
Yeah.
You are buying life insurance.
Yeah, it makes me feel worse, actually.
Okay. Oh no. All right. So it's like ultimately, like the reassurance is you are buying life insurance. It's one of the most boring, the oldest and straightforward financial products out there.
I guess if you're saying if I was freaking out like, oh, is this money going to be there or is it too risky? Like you're literally saying you're buying life insurance. This is not going to be anything that's going to like disappear overnight. It's not going to go.
This isn't a new harebrained, like this is like a flash in the pan like financial product that's going to be here today, gone in 5 years. Like this has been around for a very long time.
Yep.
And as you know, I'm a trivia guy. I'm a fun fact guy. Do you know anything about the first life insurance policy ever sold?
Yeah, yes and no.
Yes and no?
Wasn't it farmers that got together?
So
Or was it a king?
No,
Okay,
not
okay.
even.
Teach
Not
me,
even. Yeah,
teach
I'm
me,
about
yeah.
to teach you something, right? So the practice of getting a collective group of people together to essentially consolidate risk and to spread the risk out actually goes back to Rome. They, things like the Kiwanis Club, which is like social fraternal organizations, they had like burial clubs where people would essentially get together and the members would all agree that if one of the other members died, they would essentially cover the costs of their burial. I didn't know they had like fish fry Fridays or anything of these burial clubs, but ultimately like that's where it started. But the first like modern insurance policy was written in 1583 in London by this guy named William Gibbons, who was a salter. He literally preserved meat and fish. And he went to like 13 or something different underwriters. And he said, hey, if I die in the next year, it was a 1-year term policy. Wow. If I die in the next year, I'm going to give you guys 30 pounds, which is about $2,000 today. And if I die in the next year, you have to pay my friend, his name was Richard Martin, 400 pounds, which was about $800,000. So he gave them all 60. And sure enough, he died before the year was out. And the underwriters tried to stiff the friend. And they were like, the friend took him to court because the underwriter he said, well, you actually meant a lunar year. And a lunar year is only 354 days. But the courts were like...
he died on the last day.
He died on like between like the 354 and 365. It seems
a little fishy
and
to
so
me,
a little fishy did it because he's a fish salter. The courts sided with the friend. They're like, no, you got to pay him out. So they ended up having to pay him out the equivalent of 800,000, which is 400 pounds. But like I said, that was the first one. It is so old. There's no other financial product that is still currently sold today that is that old. And that's what you are getting. So like, it's nothing new. It's nothing flashy. It is life insurance.
Love it.
So the next thing. So infinite banking is the strategy for how to use your life insurance, right? Ultimately, you'll always have life insurance regardless of whether you access the cash value or not. But infinite banking is just a way that you're using your life insurance policy for the living benefits along with the death benefit. Right. And as you could probably talk about with a lot of our clients never actually access the cash value of their policy to borrow against it. It's actually just like an opportunity fund for them. They just liked having it. You want to talk a little bit about that?
We have a lot of clients that have all their cash value and that they haven't tapped into. And some people might think that's crazy, but we love it because our clients are waiting for cool opportunities. And a lot of times, I think it's both of our beliefs that majority of people don't have proper emergency funds. And so for right now, we got millions and millions of dollars of cash value that could be deployed but haven't from our clients, which is pretty exciting because every year that goes by, I think our clients are getting more and more positioned to have capital.
Yeah, and it's nice too that even if they're not using it, like literally, it's while they're not using it, they are also using, if you want to call it that, the peace of mind that comes with having it. So like they're still getting a benefit even by not using it, literally. So that's another thing. So infinite banking is just the strategy, but you are buying a life insurance product regardless of whether or not you borrow against the cash value. So also the growth inside your policy is more like a high yield savings account than anything else. It alone, the growth that you experience inside it will not make you wealthy. That's your job.
Yeah.
Right. So like we are not promising unlimited wealth here. This is not a get rich quick scheme. Like ultimately, think more like this is a high yield checking, like savings account that has tax advantages,
protection
and death benefit, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the and asset. It's not the either or asset.
Yeah.
It's not the someday asset. It's the and right now asset, right? Next, this is cool. Famous people that that really anybody knows who has really spent any time, like even in the US specifically, have used the cash value of their life insurance policy to help grow their business. So people like James Cash Penney, otherwise known as JC Penney, he used the cash value of his life insurance policy to help get JC Penney through a difficult part of the early stage of their business. And also a lot of these people, like kind of during the Great Depression is kind of when they had to tap into it. It was like you said, like an emergency fund, and they were able to use it to sustain it through some tough periods. And I'm sure at some point that they essentially refilled it or they satisfied the loan that they had taken out, but that loan was critical in helping them achieve success in the business. Walt Disney used it to help fund the completion of Disneyland. Ray Kroc, McDonald's guy who did franchising for McDonald's.
America's a lot unhealthier because of
life insurance. No,
Dang it.
it's the problem and the solution.
No.
All these people, they used this strategy to help them in their business.
And you're saying that that builds credibility because when spouses see like, oh, this is not some crazy thing that was
Yeah.
just brought up.
Mhm.
There's a long track record.
Long track record of it.
Super safe. There's people that are super well known that's done this. Also, we just yesterday we were watching a video about Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan in one of his most famous talks talked about life insurance. And it's known that he's used life insurance and even to use loans for his campaign. So it's like whether you like Ronald Reagan or not, the fact that presidents in the past have used this asset class is pretty neat.
We've also have, videos about, the Rockefellers on our channel and how that is very much part and parcel of their story. Obviously, it's not the only thing they do, but it is a big thing that they do. And so it's like, this is not a new strategy. I mean, it might have a new name to it, but this thing has been done by many people for a long time to better their financial future. And then lastly, you can turn it off. Like, yes. Yeah. So
you're not stuck with this.
Not stuck with this forever. Like, there are ways to stop funding your policy. We can go more in some other future video into like, okay, like specifically what a premium offset is or what an RPU is. But like ultimately, you do not have to fund this indefinitely. Like you can reach a point where you're like, I'm done. I don't want to mess with it anymore. And it remains active. You still have access to the cash value of the policy. And the death benefit is also still there, but you can turn it off. And so that's also like a huge reassurance is that because, some people look at the premiums going forward and they're like, oh man, like, I don't know.
That tends to be a common theme when people look like an illustration will go to 100 or 121. And a lot of times you're like there's just something, it's like, I don't know if I like that. Like the day, and it's like, no, you have the option to do that. And anyone that wants to go deep down the rabbit hole, like that's a great option because whenever you can get more than what you put in. Yeah. And it's like, why wouldn't you do that? No, like you don't have to do that. And I actually use this a lot just because it's like reassuring. Like, what's the worst case scenario? And like, look at this, and then just knowing that you have the ability to quote unquote turn it off is very reassuring.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are pretty much like the 5 things. I know. So now we kind of talked about like, okay, like, is there a point at which we would diverge in the way that we communicate these to clients? Like, how did you communicate these ideas to clients as you've kind of been in this industry for quite a long time?
Yeah. Number one, I think this is great. This is great conversation starters, and I think it's great. It's great. If someone came to me and was skeptical, I think the mistake that I think a lot of us can make is going right into this is a benefit. This is a benefit. This is a benefit. And I actually think are worse off over a long period of time trying to be like, no, you don't, like, this is a benefit. And I actually think a lot of spouses who are excited about this can probably relate. It's like they're like jamming down, like, these are all the things that are amazing. And the approach that I take is I take a step back, and I know that this sounds probably simple, but I just try to get really clear about what the goal is. And so, what is the actual goal? Try to get an understanding. One of the reasons is if I can best understand what they both want, or individually, if I can identify what they really are motivated by, like, I now am a way greater asset for them because I now can speak to the thing that they care most about. Second thing is, what are they currently doing? So the next thing is, okay, this is what you want. What are you currently doing? And being able to, in the simplest form, being like, okay, you're putting your money over here, you're putting your money over here, you're putting your money over here. And I think it's a gift to be able to say, okay, what does this look like short term and over a long period of time? What are the pros and cons? And then the next thing is, let's talk about this life insurance, and could this life insurance policy make this situation better? Let's see. And then I always talk about the negatives. Okay, short term, what's the worst case scenarios? Like, well, you might have less money available in the life insurance strategy than your typical. You may not be able to qualify health-wise. You don't necessarily get a tax deduction. And people are thinking like, Caleb, why do you talk about all the negatives? What I find is if you're really, really upfront with like, these are all the reasons you wouldn't want to do this. A lot of times people can breathe and be like, okay, now so what are the benefits? Because actually when you zoom in, the way that we set this stuff up, there's not that many negatives. Like most people that do put their money in 401ks aren't going to access their money till 59 or 60 or so it's like that's not as big of a deal as many people think it is. There's that, but then the next step is, okay, what are all the other benefits that you would get with this strategy versus the other? And so then you start talking about the death benefit. You talk about chronic illness riders. You talk about safety. You talk about creditor protection. You talk about all these things. And so if you think of like a pros and cons list, you have pros and cons list of what you're currently doing, pros and cons list of option 2, which is life insurance. And then I just open it up for questions. I love the talking about the ability to stop, because I see that as another fear, and say, oh, and by the way, you're going to have the option to pay for the rest of your life, but you don't have to do that. And I think that's really important, because even if you had to, like, life insurance is amazing, but if you had to pay to the day that you die, that's one less option that I'm given. And I don't know what the future holds. And I would even be worried, like, I don't know what I'm going to do 30 years from now. I don't know if I want to be on the hook for this, you know, and it's like, knowing that I don't have to do that is reassuring. So
a huge reassurance.
It's mainly like, get really clear where they want, review what they're currently doing, propose bringing in the life insurance and looking at the cons and pros, and then really giving them the ability to ask questions. But majority of people are reasonable. Like, they want, if you can give them a better option for the future that has better certainty, and like, why wouldn't you do it? And so it's less of being like, because on the flip side, like, most salespeople are just going to be like, this is good, this is good, this is good. And sometimes you feel like, if you're just telling me all the benefits, now I need to do the research, because we all know that nothing in the world is like unicorns. There's pros and cons to anything that we do. That's the approach, and it's definitely not perfect, but what it also is really good for people that are really skeptical, or like, this is a scam. I mean, people have seen on the channel, I'll sit down with anybody, life insurance is a scam. Let's talk about it. I really even believe that if Dave Ramsey sat across the table from me and we actually had a heart-to-heart conversation, he would, I think, agree with a lot of things that we're doing, and I think he would realize that we're not that far off. That's how maybe crazy or optimistic that but it's like, when you actually zoom in, where I think we're saying a lot of the same things. And I think life insurance, I'll wrap this up. Life insurance is the most misunderstood financial asset out there. I really believe that's true. I mean, I don't believe most people understand it or choose to take time to try to like dive into it. And as a result, you have all kinds of opinions and thoughts, and
it always gets, compared to, like, and obviously there's other people in our space who don't do maybe as an ethical of a job talking about it, but it always gets compared to an investment or something. And then it's like, we have to be very careful, in our marketing, how we talk about it, to not talk about it as if it's an investment, because, it's an unfair comparison. So, we try to be super conservative, super realistic with people, of like, don't expect this to do what, these other things that you're comparing it to that are supposed to do, and that they do really well. Like, no, this is life insurance. And I love that you said, like, we're so goal focused, because ultimately it doesn't matter what product it is. It's like, it only matters if it gets them closer to their goals. I don't even go as far to say, like, people don't even want life insurance or any other, like, they want something that gets them closer to the result that they want, right? So it just so happens that life insurance is really good at getting people
and
closer
that's
to the
where
results
our
that they
jobs
want.
come in, because a lot of times people don't necessarily know how to articulate it and lay it out, and that's where a third party who's not emotional about your situation can listen to the inputs and data and be like, this could better your situation, hence why we're called Better Wealth. It's pretty convenient, right?
There we go. Cherry on top.
All right, so if you're watching this and you're like, I want to talk to someone like Austin, we have a link down below. We also have we have a lot of resources. Call Austin. We have a lot of resources also down below, and so we just encourage you to check this out. Please share your stories, some insights. If you're like, my story is painfully funny or painfully awkward, we want to hear from you. That gets clicks, and so please reach out to us, and we would love to sit down and hear your experience. And we're just hoping on this channel to document all kinds of things as it relates around life insurance. And we have technical videos. And what I appreciate about your approach is, you're like, hey, let's zoom out. Let's actually talk about something that I think a lot of people can relate with. So I look forward to see what this series can maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Many more to come.
Yep.
All right. Thanks so much.